Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now that we've all had a day to digest the news that Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard, it's time to break down some of the details. The first thing that jumped out at me from the press release was the news that Xbox Game Pass has 25 million subscribers. Now, I don't think that number has been officially acknowledged before, and it just goes to show you the sheer size of the Microsoft gaming operation. If, as rumoured, PlayStation has a rival service planned for this year, they've got a long way to go, and this only makes it harder with this acquisition. The value proposition of Xbox Game Pass gets stronger with each acquisition, and there becomes a sort of inevitability or momentum behind Microsoft's success in this space. Although we shouldn't be fooled into thinking that for Microsoft to win, Sony has to lose. There's a huge gaming pie available, and it's only getting bigger as more of the world's population gets turned on to gaming capable devices. That could be an iPhone or an iPad or really any kind of laptop. But with this acquisition, Microsoft is attempting to position itself as the front runner in cloud gaming content and the Metaverse, apparently, for whatever reason. So why make this deal? Well, two things: money and content. So let's break those two things down. Starting with a look at some of the headline figures from Activision and their biggest IPs, which I think illustrate why Microsoft is doing this. So starting with the revenue from Activision Blizzard over the last sort of 16 years or so, you can tell there's an absolutely huge operation. They generate a huge, vast sums of money. You can see the quarterly growth there at the bottom, and then the breakdown by quarter in the middle, and then the headline figure at the top there. So I'm just going to concentrate on that one. You can see the upward trend. We're at 2018. We see a bit of a plateau there, and you actually see a dip at the start of the pandemic, and then they've risen the rising tide in gaming. Since the pandemic, everybody's stuck at home. They're looking for something to do, and they've ridden that wave up along with everybody else. This is a huge business, and this is the reason why Microsoft at least from a money's perspective, why they're interested in paying so much money. You can see from the revenues, purely from a revenue point of view, not a profit or loss, that they're going to very quickly make back, or at least cover their losses on the 70 billion that they're about to spend. I also thought it'd be interesting just to break down, because this seems to be a bit of a focus for everybody on Call of Duty, how much money that generates, and just to kind of illustrate just how much money just that single franchise alone would, if they bring that to Xbox Game Pass, how much money that generates in total. You've got 1.2, 1.16. These are just huge numbers, and even the smallest, even the lowest game, Roads to Victory, actually, frankly, I've never heard of. It was from 2007. Even that, 84 million. It's just incredible amount of money. And as I say, I don't think that counts in the microtransactions either. I also thought it'd be interesting just to look at the Candy Crush element of it, because again, while that isn't necessarily a natural fit for Xbox, and sort of certainly Xbox Game Pass, from a revenue point of view, you can just tell from these numbers here that this is why, especially this figure here at the bottom. It's been growing and growing, and especially during the pandemic, people are spending more and more time on their devices. Right, so that's the revenue, and then you can see the profit here. So again, if they're taking 857 million in profit every single year, or really anything like that, they're going to start eating into that 70 billion pretty quickly. That's without tying it into Xbox mobile gaming or Xbox Game Pass or Xbox Live, making the whole ecosystem, the whole experience from all of your mobile games being entirely tied into Xbox and gaming achievements and all those sorts of things. It becomes a much more compelling proposition for most people. If you could play a mobile game and it also gives you an achievement on Xbox, then that's better than it not doing that. So moving on to content, the sheer number of franchises this brings with it: Call of Duty, Warcraft, Candy Crush, Overwatch, Diablo. All of these games will now come to Game Pass, making the value proposition for that service much greater. Even if some of those games remain on PlayStation, they'll be marketed as best played on Xbox for free with your Game Pass subscription. So remember that with Game Pass, Microsoft can sell to all users everywhere as long as they have a device such as an iPhone or iPad or a web-capable laptop, and not just those gamers with an Xbox console. So their market massively grows, and if they can build the story they can build the narrative, all of the games are on Xbox, then that's where people will want to be. So what impact will this have on the games industry as a whole? Well, it's hard to say what any individual deal will have, but we can see an overall trend towards consolidation, with both Microsoft and Sony buying up game studios and publishers in recent years. Now, this is good for the owners of those businesses, but if it leads to a lack of choice for the consumers, we may look back on the days of a fractured games industry with hundreds of independent developers struggling to get published as the good old days. So that lack of choice doesn't just relate to where you buy your games, but which games you can buy and how you buy them. So it's certain that Microsoft views the future of gaming as streaming, and this still brings us closer to that. But what does that mean for gamers who want to own the games they play and play them on hardware that they own? They face an uncertain future. What does this do to PlayStation, if anything? Well, PlayStation are certain to announce their version of Xbox Game Pass this year, and selling that product as something with a high value proposition just got harder. If the public's perception of is that every game is on Xbox. One thing's for sure is that the best industries are those where competition is high, driving innovation and competing for consumers' hard-earned money, and therefore keeping prices reasonable. Gamers, even die-hard Xbox fans, need Sony to succeed to keep Microsoft honest. Will Call of Duty remain on PlayStation? So as we saw earlier, the revenue through microtransactions are so massive that Call of Duty will surely remain on a Sony platform in some guise. Perhaps the free-to-play or massive battle royale style games will stay on PlayStation, with a premier experience with a first-player campaign will be Xbox exclusive, at least a timed exclusive. Yeah, the narrative will be that Call of Duty is available everywhere, but it's best played on Xbox. Two final things to finish on. Is this good for the consumer? So if you're an Xbox fan, then this appears to be fantastic news. There are some absolutely massive franchises coming to Game Pass, and with many set to be Xbox or Microsoft exclusives, which only enhances the value proposition of the product you bought and validates your choice to buy into the Xbox ecosystem. But in the long run, we as gamers are best served with a diverse games industry competing against each other to make the best content. Sadly, we seem to be heading towards a future where 2 or 3 mega corporations own the gaming platforms and the companies which develop and publish them. The last thought I want to finish on is, if you're a gamer, what's now the optimum setup? Is it now PC plus PlayStation? We assume that most games will now be on PC because there's Microsoft titles. Should we all run out and buy a PlayStation? For anything that isn't on PC, we can stream over Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. But then again, if Sony's rival service launches this year, then perhaps the opposite is also true, and you can just own an Xbox and play all your PlayStation games by streaming. It's an interesting time to be a gamer, and as always, if you like this, then hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.